You ever have one of those days where the world feels off? Not like a bad dream. Worse, like reality itself is glitching just for you. Mine started on a Tuesday. The kind of gray, drizzly London Tuesday that seeps into your bones. I was walking past Buckingham Palace. Not because I'm a tourist or some royal fanatic. I was just there, killing time before a job interview I knew I wasn't going to get. And that's when I saw the first mirror. The T wasn't even a real mirror. Looking back, it was the polished brass plate on a souvenir stand. One of those cheap ones with the Queen's face etched in the corner. I was pulling my coat tighter, the wind whipping off them all, carrying the smell of roasted chestnuts and wet pavement. A group of American tourists were laughing too loud, taking selfies with a mounted guard who looked about 17 and completely miserable. His horse kept shuffling its feet. I remember thinking how strange it was, the silence around the palace. All those people, all that noise, but the big gates just sat there cold and silent, like a hell breath. I glanced down at the brass plate to check if I had something on my face. A smudge of sleep, a loose hair. You know, the usual city self-check. But the face looking back wasn't mine. I stopped walking. The tourists bumped into me. One of them said, "Watch it, pal." I didn't answer. I just stared. The reflection was a man in his late 50s, maybe, heavy jowls, small, tired eyes that had seen too much, a thin, bloodless line for a mouth, and on his head a crown, not a big, jewel-encrusted one, just a simple, dark velvet circlet with a single gold band. But I knew that face. Everyone knows that face. It was the king. Not the new one, not Charles. The old one. The one with the sad eyes and the quiet voice. The one who was never supposed to be the star. I blinked. Hard. The reflection snapped back to me. 32 years old. Bad skin. A nose that's been broken twice. Brown eyes that haven't slept properly in a week. Just tired. I whispered to myself. You're just tired. But my heart was already hammering against my ribs like a bird in a cage. Build tension, I walked faster, trying to shake it. Past the Victoria Memorial with its golden angel looking down like she knew something I didn't. The puddles on the ground reflected the gray sky. I avoided them. I kept my eyes on my shoes. Then came a gift shop window. It was one of those big plate glass displays. Red velvet inside. Little ceramic guardsmen, tea towels, a porcelain carriage. And my reflection. Except it wasn't. He was back. The king. Same face. Same tired, watery eyes. But this time, he was looking right at me. Not through me. At me. And his expression had changed. He wasn't sad anymore. He looked confused. Like he was the one seeing a stranger. I actually put my hand on the cold glass. My breath fogged up. The reflection of the king didn't move his hand. He just tilted his head a fraction of an inch. A little girl walked by with her mom. The girl pointed at the window and said, "Look, mummy, the man's playing statue." The mum pulled her away without looking. I stumbled back. My hand left a print on the glass. For a split second, two faces were there. Mine ghostly and transparent, and his solid like he was standing right behind the glass. I started to sweat. Not the nervous kind. The cold, sick kind that comes from the bottom of your stomach. I told myself it was a trick of the light. The glass was curved. The velvet was playing tricks. I turned a corner onto a quieter street, away from the crowds. Old buildings. A pub called the Grenadier. And there, propped against a wall, was a broken mirror from a car. Someone's wing mirror, smashed and hanging by a wire. I couldn't help it. I looked. He was there again. But now the background behind him wasn't the street. It was a room. A dark, wood-paneled room with a single window showing rain. He was sitting in a chair. A simple wooden chair. And he was crying. Silent. Slow tears rolling down those heavy cheeks. I felt my own cheek. It was wet. I ran. Not away from the palace. That's the thing. I ran toward it. Like something was pulling me. My feet were moving before my brain could stop them. Past the guards in their big black hats. Past the red-jacketed band playing some march I didn't recognize. The crowd parted around me like I wasn't there. I stopped at the fence. The big, spiked iron fence where people press their faces and take pictures of the gravel beyond. I leaned my forehead against the cold metal, and I saw the last mirror. It was a puddle. right at my feet. A perfect, still puddle from the morning rain. I looked down, and the king looked up. He wasn't crying anymore. He was standing. He was wearing a long, dark coat. And he was standing exactly where I was standing, on the same pavement, behind the same fence. But in his world, the gate was open. He raised his hand. I raised mine. He pressed his palm against the air in front of him. I pressed mine against the fence. And then he spoke, not out loud, inside my head, a voice like gravel and old paper. You have to take it off. I opened my mouth to ask what, but the puddle rippled. A bus drove by, and when the water settled, it was just me again, pale, shaking, alone. Climax, that's when the real trouble started. I didn't notice the crowd go quiet first. I was too busy trying to breathe. But then I felt it, that heavy silence, the kind that falls over a stadium right before something breaks. The royal guard was changing. The old guard was marching out, the new guard marching in. The band had stopped playing. Everyone was watching the redcoats move in perfect, creepy synchronization. And then one of them stopped. Not the band, not the officer. A regular guardsman, young, maybe 20, face hidden under that bearskin hat. He was in the middle of the march, one leg up, frozen like a broken robot. People started to murmur. A phone rang, and someone shushed it. The guardsman slowly turned his head. The big hat swung like a pendulum. And he looked directly at me. Through me. No, that's not right. He looked into me. He broke formation. He stepped out of line. The other guards kept marching like nothing was happening, but this one walked toward the fence. Toward me. The crowd parted again, wider this time. A woman grabbed her child's hand. A man said, "Is this part of the show?" It was not part of the show. The guardsman stopped 3 feet from the fence. He was tall. Even without the hat, he would have been tall. He reached up, and with one white-gloved hand, he took off his sunglasses. His eyes were mine. Same brown. Same tired. Same broken sleep circles underneath. But his face was wrong. It was too smooth, too young. And underneath it, like a mask slipping, I could see the other face. The king's face. The same heavy jowls. The same sad eyes. He opened his mouth. No sound came out, but his lips moved. You have to take it off. Same words. Same voice inside my skull. I felt a crown on my head then. Not a real one, but the weight of it. Heavy. Cold. Like a headache, made of metal. I reached up. My fingers touched my own hair. But the guardsman shook his head. He pointed at his own chest. Then at mine. Not the crown on your head, his lips said. The one on your soul. I didn't understand. But my body did. My knees hit the wet pavement. Resolution, the crowd gasped. Someone called for an ambulance. The other guards finally noticed, and 2 of them came and grabbed the young guardsman, pulling him back. He didn't resist. He just kept staring at me with those borrowed eyes until they dragged him inside the palace gates. And me? I just knelt there, in the puddle, in the cold. Tourists took pictures of me like I was part of the attraction. A park worker came over. Old guy, green jacket, sweeping wet leaves that weren't there a second ago. He helped me up without a word. You saw it too? I asked him. My voice was a croak. He didn't look at me, just kept sweeping. Saw what, son? The face. The king. In the mirrors. He stopped sweeping. He looked at the palace. Then at the puddle. Then at me. I've worked here 30 years, he said. You know how many people come to this fence and stare at their own reflection like they've seen a ghost? More than you'd think. He handed me a tissue. For my cheek. It was wet again. The thing about crowns, he said, finally, looking me in the eye, is they don't just sit on heads. They sit on memories. On regrets. On all the things you never got to be. He walked away. His broom made that soft shhhhh sound on the wet ground. Ending line, I haven't looked in a mirror since that day. Not my bathroom mirror. Not the dark window of a train. Not even a spoon. Because I'm not afraid of seeing the king anymore. I'm afraid of seeing myself. And realizing I don't know which one of us is the ghost. Part 2 hook. The first 24 hours after the palace, I didn't sleep. I sat in my flat in Pimlico, the curtains drawn, the lights off, and I listened to the rain hit the window. Every drip sounded like footsteps. Every shadow in the corner looked like a guardsman's hat. But the worst part wasn't the fear. It was the loneliness. You ever try to tell someone that a dead king is living in your reflection? You don't. You make tea. You stare at the wall. And you wait for it to happen again. It happened again at 3:47 a.m. Set up my flat is small. One bedroom. A kitchen you can't turn around in. A bathroom with a cracked mirror above the sink. I'd covered that mirror with a towel before dark. But I forgot about the window. At 3:47, the streetlight outside flickered on. It's a faulty light. Always has been. It buzzes and clicks and throws this sick yellow glow through the glass. I was lying on a sofa, not sleeping, just staring at the ceiling. And I saw the light change. That flicker. I turned my head. The window had become a mirror. Not because it was dark outside. It was dark, but the reflection wasn't the street. It wasn't the parked cars or the wet pavement or the closed chip shop across the road. It was a room. The same dark, wood-paneled room from the broken car mirror. And he was there again, the king, sitting in the same wooden chair. But this time he wasn't alone. There was a woman with him. Old, gray hair pulled back tight. A nurse's uniform from another decade. She was holding a tray with a glass of water and a small white pill. She was talking to him. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read her lips. You have to take it, your majesty. For the pain. The king shook his head. He pointed at something across the room. I followed his finger. It was a mirror. A big, gold-framed mirror on the far wall. And in that mirror, reflected inside the reflection was me, lying on my sofa, in my flat, in my dirty t-shirt, staring. He wasn't looking at the nurse. He was looking at me. Through two mirrors. Through time. Through whatever thin, broken wall separates the world we live in from the world that lives in us. And he smiled. Not a happy smile. A tired one. A you see now smile. Build tension. I got up. I don't remember deciding to. I just stood up, walked to the window, and pressed my palm against the cold glass. On the other side of the reflection, the king stood up too. He walked toward his mirror. Toward me. The nurse didn't react. She just kept holding the tray like a statue. He was closer now. I could see the lines on his face. The yellow in his eyes. The way his hands shook. He was dying. Not dramatically, not with a sword or a poison cup, just slowly, the way everyone dies when no one's watching. He put his hand on his mirror, his palm lined up with mine. Two panes of glass. One world, another, and then he spoke, out loud this time, not in my head. His voice was thin, reedy, but clear. They put it on me when I was 25. The crown. I didn't want it. I told them. I said, give it to my brother. He's the one who likes the parades. He laughed. A dry, rattling sound. But they said no. They said duty. They said blood. They said God's will. So I wore it. Every day. Every night. Even in the bath, I felt it. A cold ring of metal that never warmed up. He looked down at his hands. Then back at me. And now I'm dying. And do you know what I see when I look in the mirror? I couldn't speak. My throat was full of glass. I see a man who never got to be himself. I see a face that belongs to a country, not a person. I see a stranger. He pressed harder against the glass. His knuckles went white. And you see me, in every reflection. Because I'm looking for someone to give it to. Someone to take the weight. Someone to wear it for a while, so I can finally. He didn't finish. The streetlight outside my window buzzed and died. The reflection vanished. I was just looking in my own pale, terrified face in the dark glass. But the crown was still there. On my head. I could feel it now. Cold. Real. Heavy. Climax. I did something stupid the next morning. Something desperate. I went back to the palace. Not the front. The back. The side gate where the staff go in. The one tourists don't know about. I stood across the street, hiding behind a newsstand, watching the black cars roll in and out. I was looking for the guardsman. The one who broke formation. The one with my eyes. He wasn't there. But someone else was. The park keeper. The old guy with the green jacket and the phantom broom. He was standing by the gate, leaning on his broom like he'd been waiting for me. He nodded, like he knew I'd come back. You felt it, he said. Not a question. I nodded. My mouth was too dry for words. The weight, he said. It's not a metaphor. It's a real thing. Some people call it the burden of the blood. I call it the ghost of the job. He lit a cigarette. Offer me one. I don't smoke, but I took it. That king you're seeing, he said, blowing smoke at the gray sky. He's not the first. Every few generations, one of them gets stuck. Can't pass it on. The crown, the real one, the one made of duty and silence and all the things they never got to say. It picks someone, a host, until the host finds someone else to carry it. I stared at him. You're saying I'm a host? He shrugged. I'm saying you looked in the wrong mirror at the wrong time. And he saw you. And you saw him. And now you're tangled. How do I untangle? He flicked ash. Watched it fall. You go in. Go in where? He pointed his cigarette at the palace. In there. Find a mirror he's trapped in. Break it. Or look away. One or the other. But if you don't, you'll start seeing him in every shiny surface. Every spoon. Every phone screen. Every tear in someone's eye. And one day, you won't see yourself at all. Resolution, I didn't go in. Not that day. I went home. I sat in the dark. And I waited. The next morning I woke up, and the towel had fallen off the bathroom mirror. I didn't want to look. But my body didn't listen. My head turned. My eyes opened. And he was there, the king, standing right behind me. In my bathroom. In my flat. In my life. But he wasn't crying anymore. He wasn't sad. He was angry. You haven't done it, he said. His voice was louder now. Sharper. You haven't found anyone to give it to. I don't know how, I whispered. Find someone who needs a crown more than you do. Someone empty. Someone who wants to be seen. That's cruel. He smiled. That tired, terrible smile. Yes, he said. That's the point. Cruelty is the only thing that fits as well as duty. I looked away. I looked at my own hands. My own bare feet on the cold tile. And I made a choice. I grabbed the corner of the towel and threw it back over the mirror. The last thing I saw before the fabric fell was his face. Not angry anymore. Just old. Scared. Lonely. Like mine. Ending line, I still haven't broken the mirror. I still haven't gone back to the palace. But every morning I hear him knocking. Top, top, top. From the other side of the glass. And I know one day I'll either have to open the door or I'll have to learn to live without ever seeing my own face again. And honestly, I'm not sure which one scares me more. Part 3 hook, it's been 11 days. I know because I've been marking the wall with a pen. One line for every sunrise I survive without looking at my own reflection. I shower in the dark. I shave by feel. I've cut myself 4 times. The blood looks black in the dim light. But here's the thing about running from a ghost. They don't get tired. They just get closer. And tonight, I ran out of walls to hide behind. Set up, I left London. Took a train north. Didn't buy a ticket. Didn't plan a destination. Just got on the first carriage that wasn't full and sat in the window seat facing backward, watching the city shrink. I ended up in Edinburgh. Of all places. A city full of history and ghosts and crown jewels in a castle on a rock. I didn't know that's where I was going until I stepped off the train and saw the castle sitting on the hill like a stone promise. The air was colder here, cleaner. It smelled like rain and old stone. I found a hostel, cheap, dirty, a shared bathroom with a big mirror over the sink that someone had already cracked down the middle. I covered it with a towel I stole from the laundry room. That night, I lay in my bunk and listened to a German tourist snore 3 beds away. And I thought about the parkkeeper's words. Find someone who needs a crown more than you do. I thought about all the people I knew. My ex-girlfriend who said I was emotionally unavailable. My boss who fired me for lack of ambition. My mom who calls once a month and asks if I'm still doing that thing with the computers. None of them needed a crown. They needed a better version of me, which I wasn't. But then I thought about the guardsman, the young one with my eyes. What did he need? Build tension. The next morning, I did something reckless. I went to Edinburgh Castle, not as a tourist, as a seeker. I walked up the Royal Mile, past the wool shops and the whiskey bars and the bagpipers playing for coins. The crowd was thinner than London, quieter. The sky was that particular shade of Scottish gray that looks like it might snow or might just stay gray forever. I bought a ticket, walked through the gates, past the cannons pointing at the city, past the war memorials. Past the crown room. That's where they keep it. The real one. The Scottish crown. Older than the one in London. Smaller, but heavier looking. It sat in a glass case under soft light, surrounded by a sword and a scepter. I stood in front of that case for a long time. Other tourists came and went. A Japanese family took photos. A school group giggled. An old woman in a wheelchair stared at the crown with tears in her eyes. And then I saw it. Not the crown in the case. The reflection of the case. The glass was dark, but not dark enough. And in it I saw him, the king, standing right behind me, in the middle of the crown room, in front of everyone. No one else reacted. No one else saw him. He was dressed differently now. Not in a coat. In a hospital gown. Thin. Blue. Open at the back. His hair was gone. His skin was gray. He was dying. Really dying. Not the slow dying of sadness. The fast dying of a body that has given up. He held out his hand. And it was the crown. Not the one in the case. The one I've been feeling on my head. The cold, heavy one. Take it back, he whispered. I can't hold it anymore. Climax, I did something I never thought I'd do. I stepped closer to the glass. No, I said. His eyes widened. No, I won't take it back. And I won't give it to someone else. You want to know why? He didn't answer. The room was freezing. The other tourists had vanished. Or maybe I'd stopped seeing them. Either way, it was just us. The king, me, and the glass. Because it's not a crown, I said. It's a choice. Every day, you chose to wear it. Every night, you chose not to take it off. You could have walked away. You could have said no. But you didn't. Because some part of you wanted it. The recognition. The weight. The proof that you mattered. His face crumbled. That's not. It is, I said. I've been wearing it for 11 days. And you know what I learned? It only has the power you give it. I stopped looking in mirrors. I stopped caring if I saw myself, or you, or a talking horse. And the moment I stopped caring, the crown got lighter. I reached up. I touched my own head, my hair, my scalp, my skin, and I pulled. Not a real crown, not a physical thing, but I pulled anyway. With my mind, with my will, with every ounce of the man I used to be before I saw that first reflection in the brass plate outside Buckingham Palace. The king screamed. Not loud. The way a candle screams when you pinch the flame. Small. Final. He dropped his crown. It hit the floor of his world with a sound like a bell wrapped in velvet. And then he smiled. A real smile. The first one I'd seen on his face. Thank you, he said. And then he was gone. The reflection was just a reflection again. Me. Standing in a crowded museum. Alone. Resolution, I walked out of the castle. The gray sky had broken open. Real sunlight. Pale and watery, but real. I found a public bathroom near Waverley Station. The kind with the stainless steel mirrors and the smell of bleach. I stood in front of the sink. My hands were shaking. I looked up, and I saw myself. Same 32-year-old face. Same bad skin. Same broken nose. Same tired eyes. But the tired was different now. It wasn't the tired of running. It was the tired of stopping. I splashed water on my face. Dried it with a paper towel that left little white flecks on my cheeks. And then I laughed. Out loud. A stranger in the next stall probably thought I was crazy. Maybe I was. But I was free.